Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to lecture number 4. Today we're going to look at the June 2019 paper, section B, C, and D. We're going to start with matching, section B, number 51. Self-assessment, it matches with E, done by self. Number 52, peer assessment, it matches with C, done by colleagues at the same level as yourself. 53, quality, it matches with D, using questionnaire which defines quality. Number 54, external interview, it matches with A, ask patients as they leave the health facility about what has been given. And number 55, equipment, it matches with item B, which is using a list of normal requirements. So these were the expected responses for number 51 up to number 55. Then we move on to number 56 up to number 60. Match the following leadership style in column 1 with their description in column 2. Number 56, bureaucracy. Bureaucracy matches with item G, which is coming in the next part of the slide just now, which is a government body of non-elected officials but appointed officials. Is a government body of non-elected officials but appointed officials, item G. Number 57, democracy. It corresponds with D, which is leaders offers guidance to group members, but they also participate in the group. Then we move on to number 58, which is coming up just now, which is authoritarian. Authoritarian, it matches with item A, which is followers are unable to work independently. Number 59, we have charismatic, which matches with item C, which is leadership style, relies on the charm and persuasiveness of the leader. Number 59, charismatic, we said leadership style relies on the charm and persuasiveness of the leader. Number 60, we have autocracy, which matches with item E, a form of governance where a single person controls all the affairs of the organization. So these were the expected responses. Number 56, we said it's G. Number 57, we said it's D. Number 58, we said it's A. And number 59, we said it's C. Number 60, E. These were the expected responses for number 56 up to number 60. We move on to number 61. Match the following management theories in column 1 with their description in column 2. Match the following management theories in column 1 with their description in column 2. Number 61, Lewin change theory. It's coming up in a matter of seconds. Lewin change theory. It corresponds with item B, explains unfreezing and freezing strategies. Number 62, chaos theory. It corresponds with item A, change is constant. Number 63, theory X. It corresponds with item E. Manager believes that workers are lazy and require incentives for them to be productive. Number 64, theory Y. It corresponds with item D. A leader encourages participation from followers. Number 65, systems theory. It corresponds with item F. At work, a variety of parts do not work together to achieve a goal. In summary, numbers 61 up to 65, 61, the answer was B. 62, the answer was A. Number 63, the answer was E. Number 64, the answer was D. And number 65, the answer was F. Then we move on to number 66 up to 70. Match the following organizations change in column 1 with the description in column 2. Response in column 2 should be used once only. Responses in column 2 should be used once only. Number 66, wide change. Wide change corresponds with item C, which is change affecting overall company structure. Wide change corresponds with item C, change affecting overall company structure. Number 67, transformational change. It corresponds with item E, change influenced by needs to examine company strategies. Number 68, personal change, corresponds with item D, change influenced by mass hiring and firing of employees. Number 69, unplanned change, corresponds with item H, change introduced which was not scheduled in response to demographics. Number 70, remedial change, it corresponds to item A, change brought about when responding to a general deficit. These were the expected responses for number 66 up to 70. Number 66, the answer was C. Number 67, the answer was E. Number 68, the answer was D. Number 69, the answer was H. And number 70, the answer was A. Now we move on to section C. Section C. Section C, complete the following statements with the missing words. Complete the following statements with the missing words. Number 71. The process of getting activities completed efficiently and effectively with and through other people is called delegation. 72. In professional documentation, the repeating or writing the words used by another author is called citation. 73. The type of leadership level where followers are used to seeing the leader regularly is called as transformational leadership. Number 74. The process of influencing an organized group towards goal setting and goal achievement is known as leadership. Number 75. A leader who uses interpersonal skills to influence and support others to accomplishing a specific goal is known as leader. Just look at the definition, leader. Number 76. The type of leaders that appeal to the emotions of the audience are known as charismatic leaders. Number 77. Functional conflict is also referred to as positive conflict. Number 78. The type of conflict that occurs between two or more people is known as interpersonal conflict. Number 79. The Zambian Nurses and Midwives Act was revised in the year 1997. Number 80. The management function in which first-line managers do most of their work is directing. Number 81. In management, the method of assessing the organization's methods of preparing for the future is known as planning. Number 82. According to Hesse and Blanchard situational theory, the type of leadership behavior in which a leader shares ideas and facilitates in decision-making is known as participating behavior. Number 83. According to Black and Morton's managerial grid, the type of management which a manager exerts minimum effort to get required work done is known as indifferent management style, or impoverished management style, or impoverished management style. Number 84, the great man's theory is sometimes referred to as trait theory. Number 85, according to Maslow's level of hierarchy of needs, the highest need is called self-actualization. So these were the expected response for questions number 71 up to number 85. Then we move on to number 86 up to number 100. Number 86, we have in management an inner desire to satisfy an unsatisfied need is called motivation. Number 87, the process of transmitting information and meaning between a sender and a receiver is known as communication. Number 88, the current Minister of Health is Dr. Chitalu Chilufya. Number 89, the current President of the General Nursing Council of Zambia is Dr. Lonia Mwape. Number 90, the Registrar of the General Nursing Council of Zambia is Dr. Aaron Banda. Number 91, a term that explains any time an employee is away from scheduled work is called absenteeism. Number 92, in quality improvement, getting rid of unused stuff from one's workstation and reduce untiredness is called organization. And we have what is called the 5S organization. The word is organization. Number 93, the ability of a ward in charge to make informed and uncoerced decisions on which nurses should attend a workshop is termed assertiveness. Number 94, in quality improvement, statements of expected quality are called aim statements. Number 95, the best theory to use when a ward manager wants to make a radical change is Lewin change theory. Number 96, when a ward manager uses inducements to subordinates in exchange for the contributions that advance ward objectives, such a manager is exercising transactional leadership. Number 97, the tool or vehicle for transmitting information in the world is called internal memo. Number 98, the type of budget that prepares expensive items or equipment is called capital budget. Number 99, the obligation to complete work satisfactorily and use authority appropriately is called responsibility. Number 100, the informal methods of communication that coexist with formal channels is called grapevine. So these were the expected responses for numbers 86 up to 100. We now move on to section D of the June 2019 paper. Of interest, I always emphasize to you to say this is a section where you need to make sure you get your maximum points, because section D on its own, it carries 300 marks, whereas section A, B, and C, it carries just 100 marks. So this is where you pass or fail for this paper of leadership and management. Question 1 is always compulsory, and then you choose any other one from the other sections. So it's out of 200. Now, question 1 in the June 2019 paper was repeated in the November 2019 paper. If you've listened to the lecture for the November 2019 paper, we have the same responses to this one. I'm just going to redo number A up to C of number 1, and number D of number 1, I'm just going to repost the video that I redid on the logistic cycle. 1A, define management. Management is the process of planning, decision-making, organizing, leading, motivation, and controlling the human resources, financial, physical, and information resources of an organization. So if you listen to the one that I did for the November 2019, this is the same definition that I also emphasized. So I'm not going to repeat much because you already have the same recording. Number 1B, list the 6 rights of logistics. Always remember, for the rights of the logistics, there are 6 of them, and they are always easy to remember. We say you have the right goods, you've got the right goods, right quantities, right condition, right place, right time, and the right cost. So right goods, right quantities, right condition, right place, right time, and right cost. Then we move on to the other question, which is using appropriate examples, identify and explain 3 levels of management. The 3 levels of management that we have what is called the strategic level of management, we have what is called the tactical level of management, we have what is called the operational level of management. If I'm to give positions in the hospital setup, the strategic level of management, this is where we've got the top management, and in the top management, this is where we've got the principal nursing officer or the chief nursing officer, in addition to other team players in the health sector, like the senior medical superintendent or the medical doctor in charge. So this is what constitutes the strategic level. Now, the strategic level or the strategic management level, it is responsible in coming up with the strategies, the overall strategies which are used at an institution. This is where the long-term plans are set, this is where the targets are met, and this is where all the overall decisions are made. So basically, they are involved in the total running of the institution. Then we have what is called the tactical. Now, the tactical level, this is where we now have individuals who puts the plans which are drafted by the strategic level. They make now plans or tactics or approach to solve the problems down below. Now, this is where we have our floor matrons, or we have our unit matrons. We've got the matron for pediatrics, matron for maternity, matron for medical ward, matron for female ward. So this is where tactics or approaches or ways in which the work will be done is done. Then below them we have the operational level. The operational level of management, this is where we have the sisters in charge. These are the people who are like the first level of management. They are involved in supervising the people who are at the bottom level, who are involved in the implementation of the tactics. They make sure the tactics which have been designed by the matrons are executed. They are the people who make sure that all the nursing activities are done as is expected. So these are the 3 levels of management: strategic, tactical, and operational. And I would really encourage you to also listen to the November 2019 that I did, so that at least you reinforce with this explanation with the previous explanation that I also did. Then we move on to part D. With the aid of a well-labeled diagram of logistics cycle, explain the major activities in the logistics cycle. This question, I explained it in detail, and I'm going to send a video with just this response. But remember, we said we have the center and we also have the peripheries. We have the on top, then we've got the quality control linking the two, and we've got constant communication between the center and the peripheries. And the example that I gave in explaining this one was that of the use of vaccines at a local authority, at the local level, at the health center. And that video that I'm going to send again, it will explain in detail the logistics cycle. This question was done in June 2019 and was repeated in 2019 November. So when they ask you to answer this question, always make sure you draw the logistics cycle. If they say draw and label it fully. If they say explain, still draw it again and label it fully and get all your marks. I will not overemphasize on this, but you will listen to the video that I'm going to attach with this posting. Then we move on to number 2. You are the in charge at the health center, and you've been tasked to change the setting of the outpatients as to increase efficiency and quality service given to clients. Now, this question again, it is in the November 2017 paper, and we also looked at all the answers, but I'll encourage you to revisit the video that I did for the November 2017 paper so that you can also consolidate on the current explanations. State the 5 factors that may influence change. The 5 factors that may influence change are: 1, conflict; number 2, introduction of new technology; number 3, changing needs of society, of new diseases; number 4, fresh ideas and knowledge; number 5, new case management process and procedures; number 6, introduction of new drugs; and number 7, change in service delivery system. So these are the factors that can influence change in an organization. Part B, outline the 3 phases of change. The 3 phases of change, we have unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. Now, in the unfreezing phase, this is where we make the need for change so obvious so that it can be understood and be accepted easy by the people who are affected by the change. So you need to explain the reason the change is happening. You need to explain the impending change that is about to take place. In that process, we call it unfreezing. It makes it easy for people to accept the movement. Then we move to the second level of the change, 3 phases of change. The first one is unfreezing. The second phase is changing. Now, changing, this is a stage of moving or implementing the change. A change agent may be needed to foster new values and attitudes and behaviors. So the changing, this is where the action is involved, where we implement the change which we had prepared employees prior to the change being implemented. Then we have the third stage, which is called the refreezing. In this stage, newly introduced change is reinforced, supported so that it becomes a new norm. So we've got a change that has already taken place. So we have strategies which are put in place to make sure that the new change, the change in the behavior, the change in the way work is done remains as it is. It does not change again. So basically, this is where we solidify, we refreeze. Just like we take ice blocks, we unfreeze them, we put them in a container, and then we refreeze them. Then we move on to C. Describe 5 strategies you would use to effect the change. Now, the 5 strategies, this question again is a repeat of the November 2017. As I said, and if you listen to that audio, I explained on the strategies that you can use in effecting change. But I'm going to repeat all the strategies, and I would really encourage you to listen to the previous video that I did on, so that you compare and you reinforce on the explanations that I did. Now, for the strategies that we can use to effect change, we have about 5 strategies that we can use, and they are as follows. Number 1, we have what is called the rational imperative strategy. Rational imperative strategy. Number 2, we have what's called the normative re-educative strategy. Normative re-educative strategy. Number 3, we have what's called the power coercive strategy. Power coercive strategy. Number 4, we have proposed incentives. Propose incentives. Number 5, recruit champions of change. Recruit champions of change. Number 6, shift the burden of change. Shift the burden of change. And number 7, redefine cultural values. So I'm going to go in detail and explain the first 5 in detail so that we understand what each strategy involves. Now, starting with the first one, which is called the rational imperative strategy, which we can use in effecting change. It works on the assumption that humans, they behave, or humans can take change if you give them the reason the change is occurring. So basically in this strategy, you have to explain the reason for the change. So as I said earlier on, in the rational imperative strategy, just like the word rational means, it means people are more likely to change if you give them the reason why change is being done. So basically you give them the rationale, the reason why you need to change, why it's imperative for people to change. The moment you give people enough reasons, they are more likely to accept the change. So it becomes a strategy where you use reason, you use knowledge, you use information as a strategy to implement change. So it's more of giving them the reason, the rationale, the answers, the data, answering the questions why the change is necessary. So you can use the rational imperative strategy to effect change. The second method we use is the normative re-educative strategy. With the normative re-educative strategy, what you are simply saying is you re-educate people. Whereas for the first one, you are explaining the reasons. But for the second one, you re-educate people on the need. You re-educate them on the rules. You re-educate them on the benefits of the new strategy. So you find that the moment you educate people on the strategy, people are more likely to embrace, to effect change. So normative re-educative strategy is the second strategy that you can use. The third one is power coercive strategy, where you effect change by using the power that you have. This power is as a result of the office that you hold. A very good example is when you are the sister in charge. You are the matron. You want to change the way nurses write their nursing care plans. Sometimes you try to give them rationale or the reasons they will not change. You want to re-educate them, you don't change. But sometimes you can use the power that you have, where you force them, whether they like it or not, they have to change. If they don't change, they get fired. So that's what we call power coercive strategy, where you can use threat by virtue of the power or the office or the rank that you have. Then we have number 4, propose incentives. If you are to put incentives, people are more likely to affect the change. So as people accept the incentives, they're also accepting the change. So you can use it as a strategy, although it's a bit of an expensive strategy to use, but it's an alternative strategy that you can use in effecting change, where you propose incentives. If you do this, I'll do this. If you do this, I'll do this. If I give you this, you do this. So basically you propose incentives as a way of trying to effect change in a setup. Then we have number 5, recruiting champions of change. Now, recruiting champions of change, this is where you identify people who are champions in the specific area that you want to change into. Now, when you identify those people, you use them as champions. People are more likely to learn from them. So people have got a reference point to say, well, for me to do this, if this person has done it, I can do it. Or if they get challenges in the change process, they can always learn from the champions who already know the system. So recruiting of champions is another strategy that you use to effect change. Number 6, we have what's called shift the burden of change. People are more likely to accept change if it does not give them burden. So basically, you lighten the burden that they are likely to have. When people perceive the burden to be lighter, they are more likely to accept the change. So shifting the burden of change is also a strategy that can be used. Then we also have what is called redefine cultural values. It's another strategy that we can use, where when the values become more friendly to the people who are affected by the change, they are more likely to accept the change that would have been proposed. Then we look at part D, which says discuss 3 sectors you are going to work with to bring about the change. Now, when we talk about change in a department, we can talk about internal stakeholders. I always say we can talk about internal stakeholders. We can also talk about external stakeholders. Now, the 3 internal stakeholders that you can work with, we've got the doctors or the clinical officers as a stakeholder, as a sector. We also have nurses. We also have the supporting staff which includes the nurse aides and the ancillary staff. So you can involve those three sectors to bring about change within the organization. But as you know that this is a health institution where outsiders are also involved, you can also involve external stakeholders. And who are these external stakeholders? We can involve the Ministry of Education through the schools which are around the health institutions, where we can send information so that the teachers can give the children the information to relay to their homes on the changes that has happened at the institutions. We can also use churches where people in their gathering information can be disseminated to people, or we can also use community health committees to disseminate information about the changes that we have. So here, when you're about to effect change in a department, we use our internal stakeholders and we also involve our external stakeholders. So these were the expected responses for question number 2. Then we move on to question number 3.